Cindy Morris. I am the Vice President of Development and Community Engagement at the American Society on Aging, and I am very excited to welcome everyone to our very first new ASA Live. We are bringing these back after a brief break, and I am excited that we are welcoming them back after the holiday break. Today we are going to be talking about something that is a little near and dear to my heart as the person who really works in marketing at ASA, and that is messaging. We are talking with our partners at Compassion and Choices because they have done something really unique. And I think it's going to be fun when we talk about this. And I have to be honest, when we first started talking to them and they said, we came up with this idea, I said, you did what? So I'm really excited for this. We're going to give it a few minutes before we kick it off, just to give a few more people a chance to jump in and follow us along. But as we get started, why don't I first start off by introducing Compassion and Choices. Compassion and Choices is the nation's oldest, largest, and most active nonprofit working to improve the care and expand options and empower everyone to chart their end-of-life journey. Since 1980, we have united over 450,000 supporters nationwide to become the preeminent leader of the end-of-life options movement. They work at all levels of government and healthcare nationwide to transform end-of-life care with informed, empowered patients leading the way. Thank you so much for joining us in this. I'm going to introduce Kim Callinan, the President and CEO of Compassion and Choices. Thank you, Kim, for coming on today.
Thanks so much for having us here today, Cindy. We're just delighted to have this opportunity.
Absolutely. And Kim, with you today is Evan McCormack and Andrew Beall. Evan was your lyricist, and he is a singer and songwriter. And Andrew Beall is your composer and Broadway performer. And that's going to lead us to the interesting conversation of why did Compassion and Choices need a lyricist and a composer? And so I guess we're going to start there. So I really love to see organizations get their messages out in really unique ways. The reality is that there is a lot of information coming at us in a lot of ways right now, and finding the right trigger for people to really hear something is important. And you all decided, despite the fact that talking about the right to die and developing plans for that can be really difficult, you decided to write a song about it. What inspired this?
So first I should clarify that the song isn't really about the right to die as much as it is about end-of-life planning and conversations and the importance of accepting the inevitability of death and recognizing that if you plan for it, that you can have the kind of exit that you're looking for. But in terms of your question about kind of how that came about, it's sort of it came out partly from my personal experience and interest. Growing up, I was a performer myself, and music was a big part of my life. And then when I became the CEO, the very first trip that I did was to New York. And on that trip, I had the pleasure of meeting Andrew at one of my first events, and he was writing a Broadway musical that was about medical aid and dying. And he and I hit it off, and we started to work together really to see this musical come about. It's his musical, but we really had an interest in seeing it happen. And then the pandemic hit, and we're watching all of this end-of-life heartbreak with people not recognizing the importance of planning for the end. And it was such a difficult time. And in my life, during difficult times, I've leaned on music, and that's what has always lifted my spirits. So I had this idea. I knew that Broadway was closed down, and the day Broadway's closed down, for me, it was like someone had torn my heart out, because that's sort of who I am. And I knew that it meant that there were going to be talented people out there that were looking for things to do. And I knew I had a great partner in Andrew and in Evan from the other work we had done together. So I called them up and said, here's my crazy idea. What do you guys think? And of course, they were game for it. I will say that the reaction that you had was the initial reaction that almost everybody had when I said, I want to do a song, that they were like, you want to do a what in the middle of a what? And I was like, and so Evan and Andrew and I had a great conversation about, like, is this possible? Can we do something that is tasteful and respectful, but really uses music to communicate our message? And they assured me that we could, and I trusted them, and that sort of started our journey down this path. And I'm sure they might have thoughts about that as well.
Yeah, I would love to hear you all talk about that, but also talk about, this was done in COVID, and I live in New York. I live and breathe Broadway. And there is something very real about the loss that we're feeling from the loss of the arts in general. And for you as artists, I think there's one of the things that I really appreciated about this was the idea of employing artists again, and that. So can you talk about not only what it meant to create this, to get this message out, but what it meant as the opportunity right now in COVID?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. I'll just really quickly say that everyone who came into the studio in November, we recorded it on November 15th. The musicians, all of the, they were all just like, this feels so great to be in the studio again. And, they were like, it was so surreal, right? I mean, we're all wearing masks and everything. And it was all safe, one singer at a time kind of thing, one instrumentalist at a time. But you just got this sense of gratefulness that they were like, I can't believe I'm in a studio. I can't believe I'm a working musician again, right? So it's exactly what you just said.
Real joy came out of it. And a lot of people said, this is where the magic happens. This is where things start to just take off in the musical world. You get to really explore, and to do that live was, people, 6, 7, 8 months went by, people hadn't done it live. So it felt fantastic for sure.
And there were also, of course, a bunch of the singers that were doing it from home, and they had to figure out, how do you use technology to piece that all together? It was amazing to be behind the scenes watching this happen, and to see this idea come to life. It was really incredible. And I felt great that we were able to help a group of people who were going through a hard time. At the same time, we could lift our message up in a very creative and innovative way. It was, I'm really proud of the work that was done by everybody.
Yeah, I totally see why. In fact, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually share it, or just a little piece of it, I think. Bear with me, speaking of figuring out technology. So bear with me for a moment, everybody, while I manage that piece of this. But I do want to share that with everybody who's watching. So here we go. I'm going to attempt. Here we go.
I think you got to share the sound.
Oh, is it not? Can you not hear it?
We can see some very energetic singers.
Okay. We're going to bear with me, everybody, while I figure that part out for 1 second. I'm so sorry. I might have to figure that one out while we're talking. And so I apologize. I apologize for that.
No, and I'll just say that in case we don't get it to hear it, if people go to the Compassion and Choices website, compassionandchoices.org, you'll see there's a drop-down bar under About Us, and at the very end of it, it says, "This is our show," and that's where you'll be able to watch the full video, and it's worth a watch. It really is.
It really is, and I'm so sorry I can't figure that sound piece out. So I'm going to try to figure that out while we're speaking here. So I do apologize. I didn't realize that the sound wasn't going to pop up there. But while we're talking about this, one of the things that I know you and I kind of talked about was that this was kind of an idea at some point, was that this could be used at events and fairs, but that the beauty of this was that in COVID, this could be shared online, right? And I think we're all struggling right now is everybody's kind of Zoom fatigued, right? Where the online content. So how have you seen the response to this song? Who has it touched? Was there anything surprising about the reaction that you've received?
I think the surprising part of the reaction for me was how everybody has talked about how amazing it was. So I was really expecting to get somebody or some pushback from people saying, oh, that didn't work for me, or I didn't like that. And I have heard not a peep across the board. Everybody has talked about how moved they were by it. I've shared it with my friend, and they're talking about it. And so it really did achieve what we were hoping for, which was to get people talking about the importance of end-of-life planning, and to use the power of social media to really spread the word. And so I feel like we're at the start of it, so it's really early, and I do think we can continue to promote this long into the future. It's kind of a timeless piece, but the initial response across the board, and especially from people who aren't normally entrenched in this topic. Like, you expect somebody who cares and feels passionate that they're going to like it. But what's touched me is hearing from people who are not at all aware of the topic, and them saying to me after hearing it, wow, I better go get my paperwork in order, or thank you, now I get what you do every day. So that's been my response. I know, Andrew and Evan, you've had your own response. It would be great to hear from you what the response has been.
Are we allowed to talk about the event that just happened last week that you told us about with the senator, or no? Can we? That was pretty awesome to me, at least. I mean, that was like.
I think you could talk about it not by naming the person, but just naming what happened.
Well, there was the first New York virtual Zoom, I believe, last week or 2 weeks ago, and I feel like I don't feel like it's true, because they told me. There were some people's minds that were changed, and I guess, or at least influenced. And what they said was, which was what our goal when writing the song was, wow, I never thought, talking about this would be, talking about, end of life care and death and dying would be so upbeat. So Evan and I's, our goal was to make it this music as upbeat as possible, as positive as possible, because that contrast, would make people, want to listen, I think. And so, but in terms of the feedback, or in terms of the our goals, we actually in April of 2020 had planned to go to Albany and do a live performance of a song from our musical Goodbye New York, or 3 songs maybe, and we were going to bring 2 singers up and a guitarist, and and just go there and play. So it didn't obviously happen because of COVID. But then this song was born out, and of course, from the beginning, I told Kim, one of my goals has always been to go to Albany and have it be so catchy and uplifting that all of a sudden the legislators start like humming along, and everyone just starts singing along. It turns into a flash mob, and people are clapping. So that's the goal. We'll see when everything opens up whether we can have that kind of an impact and power. But that's sort of our goal,
And changing the perspective of the senator was a real treat, the start of this, what could actually happen here. And I think what I've enjoyed most is seeing the feedback from everybody who will share their experience, because I'm always looking for, I hate to say material, but I will say, at least new emotions and new experiences. As creators, we thrive off of those stories, right, to inspire us.
Yeah, is this the first time you all have ever worked with an organization like this? Have you done
Yes.
something like this before?
No, it was awesome too. I mean, it was because we come from a background of writing stories with music. So this was the chance for us to partner with Kim and Compassionate Choices. We had 5 people on almost every call in the very first, like maybe 4 or 5 Zoom calls where we bounced. We wrote the lyrics first. And all the lyrics had to be signed off on first, and Kim and everyone had a lot of great input on that because we wanted to make sure we were telling the mission in the story first of this, and then the music came, and as we were going, melodies would come to my head and everything, but yeah, the lyrics were first. But it was the first time we've ever done this, and it was great. It was such a fun collaboration, and we joked about this right before we premiered the video in December. We joked about it was the first time we had written something, because usually you collaborate with a book writer who writes the script, the dialogue in a musical. You collaborate with a director, you collaborate with a choreographer, you collaborate with people who do art, who are artists for their profession. This was a fun collaboration with people who don't do art, who love the arts but don't do it as a profession, and it was just awesome to get feedback like that. I just said real people feedback, not crazy artist feedback.
I think it actually expedited the whole entire project, mainly because you've got the creatives, and then you've got the people with the experience and the years of research and knowledge, and we're just coming together doing this, and there were so many things that were said that just became lyrics, or some form of what they said just became lyrics, and we were writing things down so fast because working with Compassion and Choices was just, it was a lesson every day into what they get to, what they're dealing with every day, and so I think it with what they were saying, it helped really propel the project pretty quickly.
What was really fun about it was we talked about trying to capture the essence of people who do embrace the inevitability of their death, and that's that they really live their life to the fullest. And that was one of the things that was really important throughout. We kept saying, somehow figure out how to talk about end of life, but get people to see that it's about living when you plan for the end. It's not about dying. And that's what they did such an amazing job of capturing that sense of living while they talked about death. And that's what I loved about the whole process. It so came through what we were trying to accomplish.
There's that Tim McGraw song that, I'm going to forget it now, but do you know the Tim McGraw song that talks about, what did you do when you thought you were going to die? And the man says, well, that's when I started to live, right? Yep. That's what you're talking about. And it's interesting to me because as a consumer of the arts, we often see you impact, and you do have very real impact as artists around very important topics, around so much. And you can influence through the arts, and you so often do. It's so special to see you working with the nonprofit to create that voice from the beginning. And that's what's really special to me to hear you doing in this project. Talk to me a little bit about this wasn't inexpensive to produce, right? This is when we take on projects like this, it takes time, it takes resources. So how do you repurpose the song? How do you continue to use this song to get the most out of it? Can you talk to us all about that a little bit, Kim, from the nonprofit perspective, so that it really makes it worthwhile for that investment?
Absolutely. And I will say that it was probably less expensive than it appears to have been. That we were, fortunately, Andrew and Evan are very committed to our mission, and they did an amazing job of finding other people who were committed to the mission and recognizing that we are a nonprofit and working within a pretty small budget. So it may not be as expensive as it looked to produce, but in addition to that, we do want to make sure that we extend its reach. And there's a tremendous amount we're doing. So we did a press release that got some really tremendous pickup that kind of is making its way around through public news services, New York Connection, and it's already been picked up by more than 100 media outlets and 4.5 million people. We tied it, and this was, I think it was Tom Quash, my chief marketing officer's idea of tying it to Valentine's Day, talking about Valentine's Day being a time when you're you want to give a gift to your loved ones, and that one gift that you can give to them is the clarity around end-of-life care and planning. So we'll continue to look for creative ways like that to resell the story and to get it out there. Thanksgiving is another example when you can often tie end-of-life planning into Thanksgiving. It's being featured in the upcoming issue of our magazine, but which will be available in both print and online. We're doing a major push in social media, and one of the benefits that we have is we do have 450,000 supporters, and many of them have their own social media channels. So we'll do a social media push, encouraging them to spread the word on their channels. We'll do some digital advertising around it, and then some outreach to bloggers and the entertainment media. And then, of course, all of the musicians that were a part of this also have their own channels. And so Evan and Andrew might want to talk a little bit about, I know they've done some work getting the word out on their end as well.
Well, sure. I mean, as any creator has, we have, several, we have our followers on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram and what have you, and putting, strategically putting out, this is what we've done. Every creator loves to see a commission or work done within the arts, especially during this time. So we've gotten a lot of buzz about creating during this time, and I think that's been very heartwarming and also effective for our networks.
Absolutely.
Yeah, when we premiered the event too on December 8th, Evan and I sort of hosted a Zoom for some of our friends. So we all watched it together, and there was a lot of people there. And then we actually stayed and talked, and Bonnie, the national marketing director, Bonnie Lawhorn, was there for answering people's questions, like my friends and Evan's friends. We just had like kind of I'm not call it a VIP Zoom, but it was just like our friends. And we were watching it together, and then we stayed, I don't know, at least an hour afterwards. And Bonnie had some really great answers to some questions that people were asking, just my friends and my family who were on that Zoom. So, but yeah, and then just our normal channels of posting it, to try to get the word out. And but I hear it's on some radio stations in New York, or it might be pretty soon, as of last week. So
amazing.
Yeah.
Listen, I can't thank you all enough for joining us today. And really, I can't thank you all enough for thinking so far out of the box and really then sharing that with our audience. One of the things that ASA is really committed to is working with our members to help them think about how they can grow their messaging and how they can reach their audiences in new and really creative ways. And this is certainly such a great example. So we are really excited to be able to share this with everyone. So thank you for jumping on this ASA Live with us today. We will be back again in 2 weeks, where we will be talking with Ina Jaffe, who is an NPR correspondent, about the impact of legislation coming out with COVID on the nursing home industry. So thank you again, and we look forward to seeing everybody again in 2 weeks. Have a really great weekend.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Bye-bye.